What would happen if a king refused to obey God 10 times? Exodus 3:7. I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers. For generations, the descendants of Israel lived in Egypt. What began as refuge had become slavery. The people were forced to build cities for the Egyptian empire. Day after day, under the burning sun, they labored with bricks and stone. Their backs bent, their hands blistered, their spirits crushed by cruel masters, and their cries rose into the heavens. But God had not forgotten them. Far away in the wilderness, a man named Moses was living in exile. Once a prince of Egypt, now a shepherd in the desert. But soon God would send him back, not as a prince, but as a messenger. Through him, God would confront the most powerful king on earth, Pharaoh. Exodus 5:1. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says, "Let my people go." Moses entered Pharaoh's palace with a message from God. The halls were filled with gold. Massive pillars rose toward the ceiling. Servants and guards stood in silence. At the center of the throne room sat Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt. Moses stepped forward, and with courage he spoke, "Let my people go." Pharaoh stared at him. Then he laughed. Who was this god of slaves? Egypt had many gods, the Nile, the sun, the sky, and Pharaoh believed himself to be one of them. Instead of freeing the Israelites, Pharaoh made their work even harder. Their suffering increased. But Pharaoh had no idea what was about to happen, because the God of Israel was about to reveal his power. Exodus 7:20. All the water of the Nile was changed into blood. The Nile River was the lifeblood of Egypt. Its waters nourished the land. Its floods brought life to the fields. Its fish fed the people. Without the Nile, Egypt could not survive. But one day, Moses stood beside the river. He raised his staff, and the unimaginable happened. The waters of the Nile turned to blood. The river ran red. Fish died and floated to the surface. The smell of death filled the air. The Egyptians searched desperately for clean water, but the river they worshipped had become a curse. Yet Pharaoh's heart remained hard. Exodus 8:6. The frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. Then the frogs came. They flooded the land. They filled homes. They jumped into ovens. They covered beds and floors. Even Pharaoh's palace could not escape them. When the frogs finally died, their bodies piled up across the land. The smell was unbearable. Then came the gnats. Tiny insects filled the air. They covered people. They covered animals. Everywhere the Egyptians turned, the plague followed. Egypt's magicians tried to imitate the miracle, but this time they could not. And they told Pharaoh something alarming. This is the finger of God. Still, Pharaoh refused to listen. Exodus 10:21. Darkness that can be felt. The plagues continued. Swarms of flies filled Egyptian cities. Livestock across the land died. Painful boils erupted on people's skin. Then a violent hailstorm struck Egypt. Lightning tore through the sky. Ice destroyed the crops. And after the storm came locusts. Millions of them. They devoured every plant that remained. Fields that once fed a nation were stripped bare. Then came the most terrifying sign of all: darkness.
a darkness so deep it could be felt. For 3 days Egypt was swallowed by shadow, but still Pharaoh refused to let the people go. Exodus 11:5. Every firstborn son in Egypt will die. One final plague remained. Moses gave Pharaoh a warning. At midnight, every firstborn son in Egypt will die, from the son of Pharaoh on the throne to the son of the poorest servant. But the Israelites were given instructions. Each family was to sacrifice a lamb and place its blood on their doorposts. That night, a silent judgment passed through Egypt. But when the destroyer saw the blood, he passed over those homes, and the people inside were spared. Exodus 12:31. Up, leave my people. Go, worship the Lord. At midnight, a cry echoed across Egypt. Every household mourned, from the poorest home to the palace itself. Pharaoh's own son was dead. The palace was filled with grief. And finally, Pharaoh called for Moses. His voice was broken. Leave, take your people and go. After centuries of slavery, the Israelites were free. That very night, they gathered their families, packed their belongings, and began the long journey out of Egypt, toward freedom. The story of the plagues is not only about judgment, it is about power. The power of God over kings, over nations, over the forces of nature itself. Pharaoh believed he controlled Egypt, but in the end he learned that no king can stand against the will of God. And this story leaves us with a question. When truth confronts us, will we listen, or will our hearts become like Pharaoh's? Because sometimes the greatest danger is not the storm around us, but the hardness within us.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more animated Bible mysteries every week.